Want to call the meeting to order. East Greenbush Central School District Board of Education meeting for April 12th. Welcome, everyone, to Columbia High School. This evening, for attendance, all members in attendance except for Ms. Kennedy and Ms. O'Brien. Other than that, all members are in person, which is great to see. With that, if you could rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's good to see everyone here this evening. We don't usually get as many folks, so we have an important board meeting this evening to talk about our budget primarily. We also have some other business to do. With that, I will see if Ryan Seeley or Emma here. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, good evening, everyone. So
Good evening.
not a lot going on as we're winding down for April break, but here's what we do have. So last Thursday, we hosted our second blood drive of the year in order to support the Red Cross.
We are also in the middle of collecting permission slips for our end of the year field trip to Six Flags that will be taking place in June, so we can reward all of our hardworking student council members. And tonight, the class of 2023 is hosting a fundraiser at Salsa Latina, so everyone should go and support our class for prom.
Of course.
Yep, and on Saturday, April 30th, the PTSO will be hosting the Snowball Dance for all CHS students, and it's nice to see events like that coming back as we hopefully wind down from COVID. So yeah, that's all we have for tonight. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Emma. Next order of business on the agenda is the draft minutes for March 16th. At that meeting, Cheryl and Mark were not there. Any comments, revisions on the minutes for March 16th? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve the minutes for March 16th. Joanne, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? All those abstaining? One approved. Go into the next draft minutes for March 23rd. All board members were present. Any revisions, comments on the minutes? Seeing none, need a motion to approve those minutes. John, second. Michelle, all those in favor? Approved. Next order of business is the board forum. I'll start on my left with Michelle. Anything?
All set.
Okay, all set. John, good. Mark, good. Kathleen? Good. Joanne? And Frank?
Nope.
Nothing. And we do have a second board forum later in the evening. Go into our public forum. Residents, students, employees, and business representatives of the East Greenbush Central School District may address the board on matters concerning programs and/or operations of the district other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns in the public forum. If a response is appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting and should state for the record their name, address, or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed the visitors forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which may be considered defamatory or stigmatizing or prohibited will be declared out of order. All comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Is there anyone like to address the board this time? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Jill Bonesteel. I am at 20 Holland Lane, Castleton. I'm a district employee for 14 years.
Yes.
And I would like to address about the abolishment of the school bus driver trainer. I have been training for this position for quite a while. And then the vacancy that was just left was pretty much ready to take over in that spot. So much that it was the administrator's idea that we bring an outside source in, somebody who is brought in from Syracuse to train me, even though I am a New York State Department of Motor Vehicles certified 19A examiner. So I am fully licensed to do any state testing or any testing to be done on our drivers already. Although I did find that when she was here for 2 days, she was brought in on February 28th and she came back a week later on March 9th. And myself and Jeff, another 19A examiner, found some information that she gave us, interesting, and things that we hadn't done before. However, this was all to help us become trainers. And now, a month later, we're finding out that there is going to be no more trainer. So in a district that constantly is talking about consistency, I think it would be nice to have one person be the trainer. And Jeff, right now, he's a new 19A, so he is included in everything that I do, because we can't have this be fall on one person again. I think there should be one person training people, and then the other 19As, would be involved in testing the drivers. There's annual reviews that had to be done to every single driver every year. There are 80 drivers in our fleet, which I'm sure you're all aware of. 80 wonderful, hardworking drivers that have kept this district going. We have not had a closure because of bus drivers. And let me tell you, there are many days where there aren't enough bus drivers, and I don't know how we get the kids to and from school, but it's being done. It's by drivers stepping up, and they're taking more than one run. And in elementary school, they drop them off and they go and they get another elementary school and bring them, even though they're late. So it's not because we're not hardworking. There's just a lot more, especially with the new federal regulations that are coming, that are already in place. One person can't be expected to do the training, the testing, the data input that's required for this new federal program. It's an enormous amount of work. So if you get rid of that trainer, and now according to this new position that's being created, the assistant transportation supervisor, whoever this person's going to be, is in charge of all of that and then some. They're in charge of the mechanics, the school bus drivers, everybody in the office. They're in charge of training. We were told that Jeff and I, and hopefully another person's going to be getting there today, that we would be doing the training and the testing. And now that seems to be being taken away. And I also want to bring up that Jeff and I worked hard to become 19A examiners, and Carrie Ann is a 19A examiner. It's a lot of work, and we worked hard for it. And now that's being taken away. But in all of the descriptions for these new positions that you've created, they have to be 19A certified, and there's nothing in here that says that they're going to be 19A certified. Those 19A files that are DMV files shouldn't even be opened up if there's not a 19A. If anybody in that room is not a 19A, they should not even be touched. So for these administrator and this new position that you're going to create, these two new positions, neither one of them say they need to be a 19A certified. So my concern is that all the things that I've worked so hard for. I've been in 19A now for 6 or 7 years, and now have only just begun to start testing and using the skills that I've been trained to do, and now it seems like it's being taken away. That's money out of my pocket. That's a 12-hour or an 8-hour position that I'm not going to get now, that I did not put in for the new senior bus driver position. I didn't put in for that because I said, oh no, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to be the trainer. I'm going to have an 8-hour position. And now, no, I'm not. So I just hope that, I know I'm kind of rambling here. I made some things, but it says that the department was evaluated. I really don't know how that was done when there's been absolutely no help from this administration at the transportation department. We've been running with no supervisor for probably 5 months now, not even an interim supervisor. We've had zero help. We've just been left to figure it out. Mr. Simon's came in a couple times and he has not been back since. We are trying to hire new people. I feel like that's also being not put aside, but it's not on a speed up case. We need bus drivers. I've had 2 people that I personally know that have applied and took forever to get an interview. took forever to check the references, and now all of a sudden, he's been approved, but now he's going back to work in construction. He came and applied because he's fully licensed, ready to go. Just needs to come in, drive with us, and bingo, he could have been in a run. But now he's back working his construction job, so we won't see him till the fall. So I feel like we're not being given the tools that we need to be successful, but yet we are, because of the team I have behind me pulling together every single day. Yet we don't have a contract. That can't be settled either, but I'm not talking about that tonight. And I don't know how much time I have left, but are other people going to talk? Anybody else want to talk? Yes? No? No, not you. You're not a mechanic. Okay. Nobody else is ready. So I'm just going to go into it that many days, every single mechanic is out driving. So there's absolutely nobody in the shop if a bus breaks down, if a driver gets sick, if a driver gets in an accident.
Ms. Bonesteel, I've given you some leeway in the time,
Okay.
and I
Thank you.
appreciate your comments. I think you're kind of diverting from the reason you were here about the position, correct?
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
So I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Sean Masters, been a driver for 25 years, 26 years, somewhere around in there. Reiterate a little bit what Jill said. We are obviously working with a skeleton crew without having a supervisor or a trainer. Now we're not going to have a head bus driver because that's going to be taken away too. And my understanding of that is part of that was a kind of like a side deal on his own to get back into.
Excuse me for a second, but let's please not get into any personnel matters, okay?
Okay, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
All right, but that position is necessary at the bus garage. It's being taken away. But the jobs that are associated for this assistant transportation supervisor, if you look at these, what their typical work activities are, a third of them are the job that was the supervisor's job. Okay, the other third was the head bus driver took care of, and the rest of it was done by the trainer or the mechanic. So this is all going under one position. And as Jill said, this position, minimum qualifications, is a high school diploma or GED, maybe 4 years of experience of driving, but you don't even need that. If you have 1 year supervisor experience, you could be a supervisor in a grocery store and you would qualify for this position with no understanding of how a transportation department works. All right. So I think it's wrong that you're getting rid of the head bus driver position and the trainer position. I think you should relook at it again to see if there is issues with our last supervisor and our trainer, then that was issues with those people, not with the position. All right, don't get rid of the position because of what happened. All right, to go back to the extra runs, every day, like Jill said, there's multiple 8 to 15 drivers that are either doing double or triple runs in between, after runs. If they didn't step up and do this, then the kids wouldn't be coming to school. All right, as simple as that. We all care about the kids. We've all been drivers. So we don't say, no, we're not going to do that. It'd be nice if the board on their own could, I think, especially in between runs, they don't get any extra compensation for all the extra work, okay, which is stressful. You don't know the kids, you don't know their stops, the liability of picking up and dropping off kids that you don't know, okay, all that extra, there's no extra compensation for that. My understanding is in school here, you're a short help with supervision. So the kids were in classrooms without a supervisor. You couldn't get the teachers to go in and do that in between their scheduled times. So it was, I believe it was through their contract, is they get an extra $75 to do a little extra. They don't do it for the goodness of the students, they do it for the extra money. I would like to see maybe the board institute something, and without going to contracts, the board just says, listen, you guys are going above and beyond what you're doing. We're going to give you a little extra for that extra run that you do as a thank you or support. You got money from the state for COVID to put in for stuff like that, incentives, pay raises, bonuses, right? I'd like to see maybe some of that utilized. And I'm talking about the transportation department because that's where I work. I know the school or the cafeteria people, maintenance people have all stepped up and done more. It'd be nice if the board would appreciate that, show appreciation of that in a monetary way. And basically again, Jill said, the new assistant transportation supervisor, if you look at that, the biggest item is the 19A qualifications. I believe if you research it a little bit more, you're going to find out that that person, if they're going to be doing anything with the 19A certifications and the training and valuations, that they need to have the qualification for that. So I believe you're setting yourself up for more issues down the line that we already have at the bus garage. That was somebody else's mistake. Again, I don't think you get rid of the position because of how somebody else did their job. I think you fill that job with somebody that's qualified. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I'm Carol Harper. I'm a bus aide over the Transportation Department. I've been in there on and off for many years, but this year the aides did not get a contract. So we did not know really what hours we were working. Usually other years they turn around after a couple months, maybe 6 weeks, they would bring us back in because they would have to add time or take time away from us. And then we would get a contract that we signed. I have not, and none of the other girls have signed a contract this year at all. My only paperwork I have is August 22nd, 21. That was telling the district that it was coming back. So now, we haven't been working under the right hours. My run went down. A lot of the other aides, they went down, but they were never changed in the system. So we have gotten overpaid. Okay, so it wasn't our fault, but if it has to be paid back, that's fine. But we're asking for more time. We got last Thursday, we got a notice in our box that we had meetings that day. Okay, and we were told that they were taking the money out. Now there's some $200, $300, $400 every pay period they're taking out. Okay, and then they did it the next day. We had we didn't know nothing about it. So this is really hurting a lot of our girls. Okay, and I don't think it's fair. If we have to pay it back, give us more time. That's all we're asking. We don't like what's happened because it really wasn't our fault because we never got a contract. To this day, I do not have a contract that I signed, and none of the other girls have too. And I know this was because of the situation at the bus garage. So that is all I have to say. I don't think it's fair. I hope you can rethink this and give these girls, especially some of these, they're single and they're living paycheck to paycheck. So that's all I really have to say, and I don't think it's fair, and I hope you will reconsider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harper.
Hello, my name is Ethan Harris. I live at 26 Tamarack Lane in East Greenbush. Dear Board of Education, this letter is being written representing the boys varsity lacrosse team regarding the termination of Coach DeJean position within our program. As a team and members of the community, Coach DeJean has mentored us for over 10 years and has played a vital role in the development of all of us as young men. Not only has he sacrificed tremendous amounts of time and capital to promote our organization, but he has done so in hopes of improving our program. For example, Coach DeJean has provided countless off-season opportunities for us players to get together and improve as a team. There is no doubt all of us could individually provide plenty of examples of how Coach DeJean took the effort to develop our skills based on individual needs. He also spent the time over the last offseason to create personalized videos for the team in order to improve on players' weaknesses and strengths. During the present season, Coach DeJean has also set up optional shooting sessions after every practice, sacrificing his own time once again to further our team's ability. From a young age, Coach DeJean has not only taught us how to be better lacrosse players, but also mature young adults. How to be coachable, respectful, and sportsmanlike has all been ingrained into our team through Coach DeJean. Regarding the situation which led to the termination of Coach DeJean, there's a lot to be considered. This is coming from the player's perspective, as we feel has not been taken into consideration. The players on the field at the time of the incident do not recall Coach DeJean making any derogatory remarks on the field about any of the girls' JV lacrosse players or anything of the sort. There was, however, an audible argument with their coach. When considering the past, Coach DeJean has never made a derogatory statement to a player, opposing player, or opposing coach during his entire history. We feel as a team that the following actions made a mountain out of a molehill, and the situation was blown out of proportion. Although we understand that the situation escalated to a point beyond reason, the consequences dramatically outweigh the actions taken against Coach DeJean. Perhaps a short suspension or an in-depth discussion would have been more appropriate considering the actions taken. It is hardly justifiable for complete termination of our coach that has been so loyal, dedicated, and passionate to our team and program throughout the years. Our entire team has been negatively affected by this outcome in a variety of ways. As our main offensive coordinator, our team suffers as we try to fill the large gap Coach DeJean filled within our team. Our morale has also suffered because of our loss. Returning varsity players from previous years can attest to the fact that the Columbia lacrosse team has endured an immense culture change over the past year. Much of this culture change has been positive and constructive due to Coach DeJean formally entering our program to mentor along Coach Sherwin, Coach Dollar, and Coach Keller. Coach DeJean inspired all of us to play as a team and a family. It feels as though we have lost an important member of our family in an unjust circumstance. We hope you will reconsider in receiving this letter, and we are confident Coach DeJean would remain a positive influence on Columbia lacrosse. And we also have all the signatures of everyone on the team.
You can give it to the board clerk, Ethan. Anyone else want to speak to the board in the public forum? All right. I appreciate the comments and thank you for everyone who spoke this evening about their concerns. At this point, we don't directly respond to things from the public forum typically, so we will be moving on to the rest of our board business. But again, we appreciate the fact that you came here this evening to express your concerns and the issues that with transportation and the lacrosse at this time. So thank you. We'll now move to the reports and presentations of the superintendent of schools, the 22-23 budget presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Puno. I'm going to ask Mr. Goodwin to pull up the presentation of our proposed 22-23 budget. This is our third presentation. Our district has been working with our board and our employees and community on the budget really since December. We have worked over the course of the last several weeks to reduce the amount of the proposed budget, as well as reduce the tax impact on our local community. In addition, New York State Legislature and the governor finalized the state budget just a few days ago, and we did receive a small increase in additional school aid, including a fairly good increase in pre-K, which is good because we are continuing to move forward with expanded pre-K. Tonight, In the presentation, I hope to reiterate some of our district's accomplishments and share with you that the budget on the spending side and on the revenue side reflects the priorities of the board to continue the progress that we have made to ensure that all of our students are academically successful and highly engaged, not only in the classroom, but in extracurricular activities. There are some budget revisions that have been made just over the course of the last week to 10 days. We will share those revisions and put you back to where we were just a week to 2 weeks ago. We have revised our revenue projections, our expenditure projections. We're going to talk about the proposal to purchase 8 additional buses out of our transportation reserve. We are recommending that the board establish a capital reserve, which will be a mechanism to set aside money approved by the board and approved by the voters to reduce the local taxpayer share of future capital projects, which typically involve borrowing money and paying that money out over a 15-year period and receiving state building aid. The difference between the building aid received and the amount of the project typically is filled by the local taxpayer in the annual budget in terms of the principal and interest. We're going to propose that we start to set aside monies to bring that local portion of the taxpayer's responsibility for future capital projects down. Additionally, we are going to summarize the propositions that our voters will see in just a few weeks on the date at which the budget is voted on in New York State and the board election. So we've continued to highlight the academic success of our students. Most recently, the Goff Middle School 8th grade band was recognized through the New York State School Music Association, receiving a gold award rating. So congratulations to Mr. Bresnahan, as well as the 8th graders for their outstanding performance. Additionally, we have many students who participate in career and technical education programs at our Questar BOCES. The number of students that have participated in these programs over the last several years has increased. There is a competition called Skills USA, at which our students who are participating in career and technical education get a chance to demonstrate their skills in a competitive environment. And we had several medal winners at this year's Skills USA regional competition, which reflects the quality of the career and technical education programs that our students are involved in at Questar and the dedication and the skill of those students. Additionally, we have shared with the board that we are utilizing the resources of the federal grants. We have hired additional early intervention specialists. We have a teacher on assignment coordinating the response to intervention program, and we have adopted new assessments to make sure that as our kids have bounced back from the pandemic, coming back into full in-person learning, that we are measuring their reading and math progress. Our students at the mid-year assessment are doing very well, with higher percentages of students reading at or above grade level in reading and math. Additionally, our math department each year at our high school supports Pi Day, which is really just a celebration of math and the accomplishments of both the department and our students. So we build a culture around academic success for our kids, regardless of what types of programs and courses they want to receive. And our budget reflects the spending necessary to continue to support that success. Our community, we're very proud of our community, how our community works together not only to support what our students are doing in the school, but also what our community needs. Recently, we had a very successful event called Stuff a Bus for Ukraine. It was well attended by a number of students at Goff Middle School. We had a number of parents that volunteered and supported. We had teachers that were there to coordinate, working particularly with the student council. I'll be reading a letter later on from the Ukrainian church, the St. Nicholas Ukrainian Church, of thanks that I received today. And we even had a special guest. The governor showed up with her husband to make a donation that came to a surprise, as a surprise to us, and made it really a nice event. Additionally, our students have volunteered at the Nassau Resource Center baking cookies, and we continue to have programs that ensure that anyone in our community that is in need of food can receive that, and many of our students are involved in donating canned goods, and we had a Super Bowl food drive. These are just small examples of hundreds of activities that go on each year in which our students, our employees, our parents, our families work together, not only to do what's required in the school district, to do what's necessary and needed within the community. So I want to talk about where we were at with our budget on March 23rd. At March 23rd, we were proposing a budget of about $106 million. We've been able to reduce that budget to $104.8 million. That reduction will also include a reduction in the tax levy. So for the second year in a row, we are able to maintain, add a few programs, and keep our tax levy at a 0% increase with a proposed budget of $104.8 million. The estimated tax levy back in March was 2.52. I want to thank Linda Wager for working through the budget to do what we could to be more efficient within the budget, to ensure that our estimates were accurate, looking at past year's expenditures and trends, and to bring that budget down to only a 1.26% increase. So our budget this year to next year is only going up 1.26%, and our tax levy will not change at all. It's a 0% tax increase. On the revenue side, we, in addition to receiving more aid this year in terms of our foundation aid, we are holding the taxes at the level that they were at this year. We received more than $6.6 million in payment in lieu of taxes agreements, which are approved by the Rensselaer County Industrial Development Agency. Some of the ones that are more known in the community are the pilots associated with Regeneron, where companies, in order to improve either job creation or job retention, are on a plan to provide payments to our school district, to our towns, and our county. It's an abatement of taxes, but it is also a revenue stream for the district. Our state aid has increased. Our federal revenues, which includes some of the reimbursement we receive for our health insurance for employees who are eligible for Medicare. And we also are projecting an appropriation of $6.8 million in fund balance to keep the tax levy at zero for next year. On the expenditure side of the budget, at each meeting, I have said that approximately between 75 and 80% of a school district budget is made up of the salaries and benefits of our employees. We also budget for equipment, contractual expenses, supplies, software, and hardware. One of the things we were able to do within our budget this year is pay for some items because we have an estimate that our fund balance will be in a favorable position. So we're buying some equipment out of this year's budget, which reduces the budget for next year. And we'll talk about that when we get to that slide. Additionally, we want to make sure that we have safe, efficient buses. We're proposing to purchase 3 66-passenger buses, 2 wheelchair buses, and 3 35-passenger buses, all out of the reserve. Those are monies that have been authorized by the community, set aside through approval of our board. We have a proposition on the ballot asking the community to approve taking about $752,000 out of the reserve to buy these 8 buses. We trade in our higher mileage, older buses, and there's a fleet replacement schedule that is available for anyone to see on our website. The capital reserve is a new item for our board and for our community. The reserve authorizes the district to set aside monies for various types of expenses, including construction, reconstruction, equipping the school buildings and facilities. So when we go out to the voters and we ask the voters to approve our next capital project, if we have monies that are sitting in a reserve, the board and the community can approve utilizing those monies in a reserve to defray the local share costs of the project. So that, again, functions similar to the transportation reserve, and it reduces our need to borrow money because we've had that money set aside. We can only fund the capital reserve up to a total of $5 million over a 10-year period. That doesn't mean that we're going to have $5 million at the end of this year or even next year or the following year to fund it. When we have monies available, subject to approval of the board, we can put those monies in at the end of the year when we adjust and look at all of our reserves, which is an annual process that typically occurs in August, Linda, sometimes in September, sometimes later.
June. In June, we'll start to do that.
Okay. Funding for the reserve has to be approved by the Board of Education. Funding for the reserve has to be approved by the voters. There will be 3 propositions on the ballot: a proposed operating budget of $104.8 million, the purchase of the buses out of the reserve, and the establishment of the capital reserve. And there are 3 vacant board seats up for election, and the timeline for board candidates to submit their petitions is April 18th. So here we are on April 12th. I will be recommending the $104.8 million budget to the board, which includes a 0% increase in the tax levy. We will ask the board to approve that this evening, and then we will be talking with various groups, including employee groups, parents, towns, PTOs, about the budget over the next several weeks, faculty and staff meetings, and then we will have a public hearing on the budget on May 4th, and the budget vote and board election is on May 17th. So that concludes the presentation. There have been 3 presentations kind of building up to this with the detail. The highlights are we are maintaining all of our programs. We're adding some supports that have been talked about at previous meetings. We're buying some equipment this year, which reduced the budget for next year. We're buying some textbooks this year that will reduce the budget for next year. And we think it's a solid budget and that it maintains all of our programs for students, lower than average class sizes in accordance with our policy, all of the elective courses, extracurricular activities, including an additional cross-country offering, are included within this budget at a 0% increase to the tax levy.
Great.
And I'll take any questions from the board at this time.
Any questions or comments, board members?
Jeff, I just wanted to say that I give kudos to Linda and everybody in the school district to get it to this point. I mean, given what we are as a society and the economy that we have, this is the best news we can ask for. And I think everybody realizes it's not going to continue forever. We've been very good the last few years on the tax levy and the increase. But to do this without hurting any kind of programs, actually enhancing some it's just an amazing outcome that the community will hopefully come out and support 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else? John?
Just an overall comment, Jeff. Thank you. I was concerned about this year's budget and the fact that we are maintaining a good fiscal plan overall and projections without losing programming is just very appreciated by the community. So I am supporting this effort wholeheartedly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Just also echo the comments that were made this evening. I know that the district has always been very conservative in terms of its budgeting, making sure that very aware of the impact on the taxpayers, the employees, the students, and try to deliver the best budget we can within and live within our means, but also utilizing the things that we put aside in other years, the reserves that we have, and we're going to see the next presentation around the current fund balance projections and things that do help the district as it plans, as John said, for the long-range financial picture of the district, to smooth those things out, that the spikes that could happen in a difficult economy like we're experiencing right now. We did get some additional aid, I think, that came through in this last budget for our pre-K and some other areas, some minor reductions in a few small areas. But we think that this budget will be something that we can put forth to the taxpayers. And we do appreciate that the work that went into looking at each line item. You know, one of the things that Jeff and I and Linda and I did, we talked about this budget. We talked about every line and making sure that we look at everything that's in the budget. Because one of the things I remember Mark always saying is when you have a budget of this size and the size of the different items that we have, small dollars add up to big dollars. And if you look at all those small dollars, in the end, it can save a lot of money. And it can be something that really helps us reduce that levy and impact on the taxpayers. And of course, it's also appreciated that the state aid was increased for the district. Much deserved after a lot of years of not getting our fair share, in my opinion. So thank you to the team. Glasses on. The next item is the discussion item on the 21-22 fund balance projections. Linda, kick us off, or Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Tonight, I have provided you with a fund balance projection. This fund balance projection is as of March 31st, 2022, and I will be providing another fund balance projection to you in June. But as of this fund balance projection, I am projecting that our unassigned fund balance will be approximately $2.2 million less than it was in 2021. That is made up of two things. I expect at this point that our expenditures will be about $1.4 million over our projected revenues. And I am also projecting that we're going to have some changes in our restricted fund balances. One of the biggest change is if the voters approve the capital reserve, I would like to see the board fund the capital reserve, and I'm projecting $1 million. Now that brings us down to a projected 3%, approximately 3% of next year's fund balance as our unassigned fund balance. You'll recall that our policy by the board is that we maintain an unassigned fund balance of between 2 and 4%. The funding that I've projected at $1 million is, of course, subject to change. And of course, we would want to, at this point, we'll want to bring our unassigned fund balance as close to 4% as possible. That is the New York State limit that we can carry forward from year to year. So attached to this fund balance projection, if you turn to page 1 of the numbers spreadsheet, you'll see that I am projecting that there'll be a change in the fund balance components of approximately $822,543. That consists of decreases to some of our reserved balances and an increase to the capital reserve balance. I've also provided you with a line-by-line analysis of revenue, which starts on page 2 of the numbers. It shows our actual from 2021, our current budget for 21-22, what we're projecting through the end of 21-22, and our year-to-date as of March 31st. And that is followed by a line-by-line projection of expenditures as well. It's just an overview. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
I think they're all looking at the numbers
Sure.
diligently there, Linda, so. One of the concerns that I brought up with the team here was, for me, the unassigned fund balance is important because that's monies that we can access quickly in case of emergencies or other things that have to happen. And I really want to see that next projection at the end of the year to see if it's really something we should be doing in this year. One of the downsides, as I was educated, is that if you do fund it in the 1 year, you can't spend it in the same year.
That is correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's challenging in that sense, that when you have capacity to fund something, and again, this is when they made the projection of the $1 million. It doesn't have to be that much, but
No, it does
obviously
not.
it's someplace where we can start. I do believe in reserves. I do believe that the reserves have to be used judiciously and not overly funded. I think it's important. I do think establishing the reserve, and then I want to make sure we have further conversation about how to fund that reserve and how it's used.
And one thing I'd like to add is that you will recall over the last couple of years, in light of the issues we weren't sure about COVID and what that would bring, we have maintained over 4% of our fund balance, which is not in line with New York State regulations. So our attempt in this current year budget was to be more in line with our board policy, which is between 2 and 4% and under the 4% statute limit.
Yeah, I think that's important. It is really, we're looked at a little bit negatively if we have too much fund balance. So we do need to be in that fine line of 2 to 4%, and this helps us get there.
And typically we are, we just were unsure about what expenditures or what we might have to do in line with COVID. And then we were on a hybrid year. So this is really our first year back in full course of business. And so we expect to be back within the 4% range by June 30th.
And again, we balance that up with the impact on our taxpayers because we don't want to be squirreling money away in places and still have a tax levy that's going to impact people. That's important balance too. So any other comments or questions on the fund balance?
So with the capital reserve, that's just to establish a reserve,
Correct.
not to say how much money we're going to put into it.
The
Correct.
proposition that will be on the ballot this year is just to establish the reserve. And then the board will receive a fund balance projection in June, and you can decide to fund it or not fund it in this year.
And it runs similar to like the bus transportation reserve that has to go to the voters. We can fund it, but the voters have to approve
The
the expenditures,
exactly.
exactly the reserve.
We can fund it, and we can also, futuristically, we can decide to put some of the building aid into the reserve as well. So there are plenty of options for us moving forward.
Like future building aid that we get could be used similar like when we get the aid on the bus, the transportation. Okay. It's good to know those options. Okay. Any more questions, Mark? Good. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Linda. Moving on to our regular business, start with the adoption of the proposed budget for 22-23. Any questions or comments, final comments? If not, I need a motion to move that to the budget process for adopting the budget for next year. John, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. The next proposition will be the approval to purchase buses. Any questions or comments?
I
Seeing-
do have a question.
Oh, Bert, yes, go ahead.
So when we purchase buses, do we put it out for a bid on the buses through different companies and allow companies to bid on them? Or how does that work?
It's all done through New York State
Okay.
contract.
In New York State contract has business with a few companies, right?
Mhm.
So how do we
Yeah.
decide which company we use?
Well, typically, we have been using Leonard Bus Company for the last several years. And they are on New York State contract, so that ensures our best price.
I think we've tried
And
to
this-
keep our fleet consistent too. Is that
That's correct.
I just want to
And-
make sure
Yeah.
that their prices are
They-
are,
Competitive,
huh?
competitive to the other,
Yes.
other vendors on the contract.
So
Yes,
we're part of their GPO, right? Their group purchasing.
yes, we are, along with other districts. And then what we do with this proposition authorizes us to spend up to this amount. And then we will apply trade-ins against it as well.
I guess in light of Mark's question, is there any reason to, like, do we look at other manufacturers?
Well, I can tell you that these buses that we're planning to purchase next year have already been discussed with Leonard Bus. That was something that was done prior to
Sure.
the budget. I was not involved in, but, we work with them to get our best prices.
And I know we had also talked about
Electric.
what we discussed a few meetings ago about the green.
Yeah, the electric buses, and
Buses.
we will be looking into those. And there have been in the past additional grants available to purchase electric buses. So that is something that we'll be looking into next year, moving forward.
There was a state requirement passed within the budget. I think it's by 2024, any new purchases of buses have to be zero emissions is the language, I believe. And is that correct?
Yes.
And we have to look at what would be involved in transitioning to that in terms of being able to charge the buses, et cetera. But by 2024, according to the state of New York now, we have to go in that direction.
And we currently have 102 buses, and right now they're fueled by both gasoline and diesel, almost evenly split.
So they're requiring us to do that, but they're not planning to give us any funding for it.
No.
I know that's the typical answer. I just wanted you to get out there.
All set, Mark?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Need a motion to approve the bus purchase going on the proposals? Frank, second. Michelle, all those in favor? Approved. The next item is to establish the capital reserve. Any final questions or comments on the reserves? All right, need a motion to approve that. Joanne, I need a second. Frank, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Approved. Next item is the resolution to approve the establishment of the Administrator for Transportation Services. Attached to the document is the organizational structure as well and the position description. Any questions or comments on that? Joanne?
Guess I'd just like clarification regarding some of the comments that were made. I appreciate the comments from the Transportation Department. And I do believe that when we make these changes, we need to get it right for stability in the district. Can you just clarify for me, the person that will be working with the 19A coordinators will be the assistant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And-
However, some of the information that was discussed in public comment is inaccurate. We did meet with the union and discuss all of these positions. And it is our intent that existing employees who have 19A certification would be involved in the 19A testing process as well as the new federal ELDT process for training. So the idea is that rather than having one position as a driver trainer, we would have multiple people, and we do have multiple people within the department to do this work. We believe it's better to have multiple people doing it, but the assistant transportation supervisor would be overseeing that process. And we also committed to the union that we would continue to discuss the job descriptions and that they were drafts. So the idea is you have an administrator certified through the New York State Education Department is overseeing the entire operation, working with the central administration and the department employees. But the assistant transportation supervisor has delineated duties that are more day-to-day management, including the 19A ultimate responsibility, but that person isn't necessarily doing the actual testing. And one of the things we need to do is look at the language of that job description. It's really overseeing, coordinating, working with the people within the department that are already 19A qualified. So we haven't changed our intention on that.
Thank you. for the
Yep.
clarification.
Any other questions? Thank you, Joanne. That was very helpful. All right, seeing no other questions, I need a motion to approve that. John, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. The next item is the establishment of the Assistant Transportation Supervisor. Any questions or comments on that? Anything, Mr. Simons, you want to add?
No, this is a civil service position. This civil service has been in receipt of the application for approval of the position.
Okay.
We did have a conversation with civil service about this entire plan, Marissa and I, recently. And we believe that the department is complex. It does have a lot of employees. It does have a lot of demands. And so we have these two supervisory positions to deal with the division of responsibilities. And hopefully, we are confident that it will provide more support and more direction and responsiveness to all of the employees.
And is this position represented, Mr. Simons?
This particular position is represented by the AGATSA.
The IGATSA?
Yes,
Okay, that's a small unit.
which is the Administrators and Supervisors Union.
Okay. And you indicated earlier that you're working with the unit that represents the transportation employees
Yes,
to work through those other issues?
yes.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So just to clarify, like what Joanne said, so everything that is stamped draft is subject to change with the negotiations of the unions?
It's not necessarily negotiations, it's just really just kind of the labor management discussions. And we have informed the CSEA liaison labor relations specialist that that is our intent as recently as today.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes, those ongoing conversations are important.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So we have the resolution to abolish the supervisor of transportation position. Any other questions or comments? Need a motion to approve that. Mark, second. John, all those in favor? Approved. The next resolution is to abolish the bus driver training and head bus driver positions. Any questions or comments? Need a motion to approve that. Frank, I need a second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. Approval of programs for resident children with disabilities. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, need a motion to approve that. Kathleen, second. John, all those in favor? Approved. And the last item for regular business is the Rensselaer County School Bus Stop Arm Enforcement Program opt-in agreement. Any comments first, Mr. Simons, on the program?
I think I'll ask Vice President Mark Mann to comment and then I'll fill in where needed.
So the Rensselaer County Legislature should be meeting tonight as well to final approve at the county level. And then school districts that wish to opt in have to sign this opt-in agreement. I had a discussion with them this week and they're like, with the county, and they're like, yeah, as soon as we approve it, we'll get those agreements out. I said, well, the agreement's already out. I said, we already have it.
Right.
So they weren't aware of that, but they are now. So hopefully they approve it tonight. We approve it. There are several other school districts in the county that are also going to opt in.
Mhm.
It's going to be managed and controlled by the sheriff's department, which is the way it should be. And I'm hopeful that we'll be in business by next September. Once we
Great.
do this and other school districts opt in, the bus patrol company is ready to go. And they've got the signs and stuff that they're going to put up in the county. And then, should start hopefully installation of the buses. So
Great.
work throughout the summer and like I said, be up and running. So
And very important safety consideration for
absolutely.
for our students and our bus drivers.
Yep, absolutely. You know, this is going to help, you know, the drivers of the buses. It's going to be a safety aspect for the students. It's going to be another tool for law enforcement. So overall, great program. Extremely minimal to no cost to us, the district, but yet we're going to, you know, get a lot of these cameras, and there are some other options, like Jeff said a couple meetings ago, with getting some cameras within the buses as well, which will be good for the district as well. So, yeah, it's been a long time coming. You know, we've been talking
Yeah.
about this over a year. So first ran into these people at a
School board, right?
school board down
Yeah.
in New York City.
Yeah, a few years
So,
back.
Finally to see we're at this step.
Well,
The
we
thing I would
think,
add is the company bus patrol sent us their agreement, their opt-in agreement. Our attorneys did review it. There were some mild, you know, modest changes, which were really related to protection of student privacy information regarding the recording equipment, and the company accepted all of our attorneys' changes.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. I appreciate your persistence, Mark, and working with the county.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Moving
I've
forward.
been persistent, I can tell you that.
We appreciate it. Any questions for Mark? I guess this is. And then on the resolution? Seeing any, the motion to approve that. Mark, second. Joanne, all those in favor? Approved. Before we leave regular business, there was, I hope folks would stick around, but you know that a lot of difficult decisions have had to be made in looking at transportation and looking at what's occurred and how we can best and most efficiently operate our transportation department. And I think some further conversations are probably warranted, given kind of what we heard, and there seems to be a little bit of confusion,
Mhm.
perhaps. And maybe the channels need to be opened up a little more to see what the perceptions are and what's happening, and what we can do to kind of work with the team at the transportation department to listen to and understand, but also for them to listen and understand what we're trying to do to promote the efficiency and the safety and well-operating department. And I would ask that you look into the comments from the Ms. Harper about the pay issue.
The
Perhaps you could
repayment.
Yeah,
tell
we
us
will,
about
we
that.
will discuss that in executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, this is something that is just only recently come up.
Okay, very
Yes.
good. Okay. So we'll have more discussion about that. Because it's,
Can I
yes,
just
John.
have a comment too? And
Yes.
To follow up what you said, I'm kind of disappointed that the folks left before we finished this block, because we didn't get an opportunity to tell them that we recognize and appreciate the diligence and the work that they do. And that because we're going through restructuring does not mean that we don't hear the concerns that they voiced.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we're not going to try to address the concerns. Growing pains are sometimes painful, and perception has, you know, a lot of different angles because of the change that we've had, and we have not had an opportunity to really, you know, you have to build the structure before the implementation, then we will be judged by how we move forward. So I hope that through our conversations and our relationships with our employees, especially the bus garage folks, that they read the public record of this, and that we did acknowledge their service in their absence and our willingness to improve the working conditions of a very difficult and stressful job, and that we did listen to what they had to say. And
Mhm.
we've been listening long before this, but unfortunately, like I said initially, we have to put in the structures and then work to improve. And I'm confident that we will move in that direction under Jeff's leadership. So, thank
Okay,
you.
John.
We have established regular labor relations meetings with the CSEA group. There are 5 or 6 people that come to those meetings, including the president of the CSEA. We've had 3 meetings with them within the last 2 months to discuss various issues and concerns. We're going to continue that process. That's really not the negotiation process. It's just regular labor management meetings.
Sure.
And as Mr. Buno said, there's always a need to continue communication. It's a big department and some of the information doesn't always get to everybody in an accurate form.
Okay.
So-
All right. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Yes.
Because I didn't get that either.
I did think we skipped one by accident.
Okay, I must have took my glasses off like I typically do, and then E
I
looks
was
like F.
wait, I think we missed one. but I
Okay,
couldn't figure out which
so-
one.
E.
Item E, resolution to approve the establishment of an assistant transportation supervisor. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve that. Frank, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you for that, Jeannie. I appreciate it. There's always one. I'm trying to get through the whole one without anything. Okay. That concludes our regular business. Thank you for the comments. Moving on to committee reports. Marissa?
Thank you, Mr. Buno. The second posting for our Director of Athletics, Physical Education and Health closed on Monday, April 11th. We had an additional 13 applicants. Mr. Simons and I reviewed those applications today, and the new interview dates are going to be Monday, May 2nd and Wednesday, May 4th. Additionally, our Special Grants Committee met yesterday evening, and I will be preparing our recommendations for Mr. Simons, and those recommendations will then go to the board at the first May meeting.
Okay, thank you, Marissa. Did we establish who's going to go to the AD committee interviews? I know Jennifer couldn't do it.
I can't take 2 days.
Yeah.
John volunteered already.
I'll
John
vote.
graciously volunteered.
Okay,
Serious issues.
thank
I
I
you.
second.
appreciate that.
It's opening weekend.
Thank you, Marissa. Linda? Linda, got anything?
None at this time.
Jim?
Not at this time.
Jeff?
Yeah, just briefly, we had our Committee for Global Education today, right after school. We have been planning a theme for next year that will involve one community, one book, possibly one community, 3 books, elementary, middle, and high school. The theme that has been chosen is there's unity in community. We think that that's highly appropriate as we come off of a challenging year this year with all of the different reasons for conflict, disagreement that we see on the news every night. Some of the hardships that people are experiencing. We want to celebrate diversity, inclusion by recognizing that we all are working together, celebrating differences, supporting each other. And the committee chose that theme after a lot of discussion. Now the next step is to identify some fiction books that would be of high interest to kids and community. We're hoping that we can expand this theme out into the towns, all of our towns. Maybe the employees are involved in reading the book. We're hoping that we can have billboards and other things up in the community that capture the theme. And we think that we will be launching this in October with more details to come. Next step is to consult with some of our librarians about some of the options for books and start to communicate with some other stakeholder groups, businesses, town, the public libraries, and see if we can't get them involved in the planning of this as well. Very good. And we also debriefed on the stuff a bus for Ukraine. And there are some other recommendations of some service projects that we can get involved in to help in that effort, including John made a suggestion of a group that I can't remember the name right now that is involved in making sure that there is food for the refugees, particularly those that are impacted in Poland. World Central Kitchen. So we're going to look into that as well. Very good.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Moving on to table motions. They have none at this time. Next item is old business. Board members, anything? No? Okay. We'll have, moving on to our next item is the consent agenda, items A through L. Any questions, comments on the consent agenda? Seeing none, need a motion to approve that by consent. Joanne, second. Michelle, all those in favor? Approved. Addendums, we have no addendums at this time. New business, board members, anything to bring forward? No. We're at our second public forum. No one? Okay. And next we'll have our board forum. Start with my right with Frank. Anything, Frank? Good. Joanne? Good. Kathleen? Mark? John? Good. Michelle?
I just want to do a good shout out to the middle school for their success in Science Olympia this weekend in New York
Oh,
State,
terrific, yeah.
where they came in third place, which is pretty amazing. So good, great job for them. And Mrs. Flea probably will potentially be her last year. I hope not. She said, I
Come
heard
back.
rumors she might come back.
Come
for
back as a
this.
coach?
Yeah,
Nice.
but very, very much appreciative of all the years that she
Of course.
has ran that. So
Yeah. It's incredible. I did want to comment. I saw the artwork downstairs. We saw the article on the webpage about the artists who won the scholarship, right?
Yes,
$1,000 it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive.
very good.
It's a great piece of art too.
Stay in the life of a bus.
Yeah, excellent. So, a lot of things to celebrate. And again, kudos to the team for the budget. I think it's a great effort. I'm sure a lot of nights, some weekends, line by line, going through things, Linda. Thanking you for the team there and all the support you provided. I know the board did present some pretty aggressive goals in terms of the budget. And I think things worked out very well for us. And I hope the community supports it as well. With that, we do have need for an executive session for personnel discussions. We don't expect to have any business after the executive session. So with that, I'll need a motion to move into executive session. Kathleen, I need a second. Michelle, all those in favor? All right, approved. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.